In a typical electrical system, the neutral bar is connected to the grounding conductor at the service entrance. In your case, the neutral bar in the downstream panel is not isolated from the panel. To ensure proper grounding, you should isolate the neutral bar from the panel by installing a non-metallic adapter or barrier. This will prevent any current from flowing from the neutral bar to the panel's enclosure. For a 220 volts service, you will need a fourth wire for the neutral as well as the insulated ground wire. The neutral conductor carries the return current back to the source, while the ground wire provides a path for fault currents to flow safely to the earth. Ensure that the ground rods are properly sized and installed in accordance with local regulations. Use number 8 or larger copper wire for grounding purposes. While local construction standards may be lenient, it is advisable to follow established electrical codes for safety and reliability. Consult with a qualified electrician if possible. Electrical work should only be performed by qualified personnel. Do not attempt any electrical work unless you are properly trained and experienced. Grounding is essential for electrical safety and prevents electrical shock hazards. Improper grounding can lead to serious electrical problems and fires. Seek professional advice from a qualified electrician to ensure the safety and compliance of your electrical system. Considering the installation of ground rods is crucial to understand their function. Ground rods provide a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, tripping the overcurrent protected device, such as a circuit breaker or fuse. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, specifies requirements for ground rod installation, including the minimum length and diameter of the rods, as well as the spacing between them. In many cases, 2 ground rods are required to be installed at least 8 feet apart. The depth to which the ground rods are driven into the earth is also critical to ensure effective grounding. The top of the ground rod should be below the surface of the earth to protect it from physical damage and to ensure consistent contact with the soil. When selecting ground rods, consider the soil conditions at the installation site. Different types of soil have different resistivity, which affects the effectiveness of grounding. In areas with high soil resistivity, such as sandy or rocky soils, it may be necessary to use longer ground rods or to install additional ground rods to achieve the required grounding resistance. The grounding wire size is another important factor to consider. The size of the grounding wire must be adequate to carry the maximum fault current that could flow through it. The NEC provides tables that specify the minimum size of grounding wires based on the size of the service entrance conductors. It is essential to use the correct size grounding wire to ensure that the grounding system can effectively protect against electrical shock hazards. When connecting the grounding wire to the ground rods, use approved grounding clamps or connectors. These connectors must be made of corrosion-resistant materials and must be properly installed to ensure a reliable electrical connection. Avoid using makeshift connectors or methods, as these can lead to loose connections and increased resistance, which can compromise the effectiveness of the grounding system. The importance of following established electrical codes cannot be overstated. Electrical codes are developed to protect people and property from electrical hazards. They provide detailed requirements for the installation of electrical systems, including grounding, wiring, and overcurrent protection. While local construction standards may be lenient, it is always advisable to follow the NEC or other applicable electrical codes. This will help to ensure that the electrical system is safe and reliable. In addition to following electrical codes, it is also important to consult with a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician has the knowledge and experience to properly design and install electrical systems. They can also identify potential hazards and recommend solutions to mitigate them. Attempting to perform electrical work without proper training and experience can be dangerous and can lead to serious injuries or even death. Therefore, it is always best to leave electrical work to the professionals. Electrical safety is paramount. Electricity can be deadly if not handled properly. Before working on any electrical equipment, always disconnect the power supply. Use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as insulated gloves and safety glasses. Never work on electrical equipment in wet or damp conditions. Be aware of the potential hazards associated with electricity and take precautions to protect yourself and others. Grounding plays a vital role in electrical safety. It provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, tripping the overcurrent protective device and preventing electrical shock hazards. A properly grounded electrical system can save lives and prevent property damage. Therefore, it is essential to understand the principles of grounding and to ensure that electrical systems are properly grounded. Consider the neutral bar isolation in downstream panels. In a typical electrical system, a neutral bar is connected to the grounding conductor at the service entrance. This connection provides a common reference point for the electrical system and helps to ensure that voltage levels are stable. However, in downstream panels, it may be necessary to isolate the neutral bar from the panel enclosure. This is done to prevent circulating currents from flowing through the grounding system. Circulating currents can cause voltage drops, which can affect the performance of sensitive electronic equipment. To isolate the neutral bar, install a non-metallic adapter or barrier between the neutral bar and the panel enclosure. This will prevent any current from flowing from the neutral bar to the panel's enclosure. Remember that a 220 volts service requires a fourth wire for the neutral. In a 120 volt system, only two wires are needed: the hot wire and the neutral wire. The hot wire carries the current to the load, while the neutral wire carries the current back to the source. However, in a 220 volt system, a third wire is needed: the second hot wire. This wire carries the current to the load at a different phase angle, which allows for a higher voltage. In addition to the two hot wires and the neutral wire, a 220 volt service also requires a fourth wire, the ground wire. The ground wire provides a path for fault current to flow safely back to the earth. It is essential to have a properly installed ground wire in a 220 volt system to protect against electrical shock hazards. In summary, grounding is a critical aspect of electrical safety. It provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, tripping the overcurrent protective device and preventing electrical shock hazards. To ensure proper grounding, follow established electrical codes, consult with a qualified electrician, and use appropriate grounding materials and techniques. By taking these precautions, you can help to protect yourself and others from the hazards of electricity. Let's elaborate further on ground rod installation best practices. When driving ground rods, avoid damaging the rod or the coating. Use a ground rod driver, which is a specialized tool designed to protect the rod during installation. If you encounter rocks or other obstructions, try moving the rod slightly to find a clear path. Do not force the rod, as this can bend or break it. Once the ground rod is installed, inspect it to ensure that it is straight and undamaged. If the rod is bent or damaged, it should be replaced. When connecting the grounding wire to the ground rod, use a grounding clamp that is compatible with the materials of the rod and the wire. For example, if the ground rod is made of copper and the grounding wire is made of aluminum, use a bimetallic grounding clamp to prevent corrosion. Tighten the grounding clamp securely to ensure a good electrical connection. After the grounding system is installed, test it to ensure that it is working properly. Use a ground resistance tester to measure the resistance between the grounding system and the earth. The resistance should be low enough to provide an effective path for fault current to flow. The NEC specifies the maximum allowable ground resistance for different types of electrical systems. If the ground resistance is too high, take steps to reduce it, such as adding additional ground rods or improving the soil conductivity. Regularly inspect the grounding system to ensure that it is in good condition. Check for corrosion, loose connections, and physical damage. If you find any problems, repair them promptly to maintain the effectiveness of the grounding system. Remember that grounding is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. It requires regular maintenance and inspection to ensure that it continues to provide adequate protection against electrical hazards. Let's discuss the importance of using the correct size grounding wire. The size of the grounding wire is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors. The NEC provides tables that specify the minimum size of grounding wires based on the size of the service entrance conductors. These tables take into account the ampacity of the service entrance conductors and the potential fault current that could flow through the grounding system. Using a grounding wire that is too small can be dangerous. If a fault occurs, the grounding wire may not be able to carry the fault current, which could cause it to overheat and melt. This could lead to a fire or an electrical shock hazard. Therefore, it is essential to use the correct size grounding wire to ensure that the grounding system can effectively protect against electrical hazards. When selecting a grounding wire, choose a wire that is listed and labeled for grounding purposes. The wire should be made of copper or aluminum and should be insulated with a green or green with yellow stripe insulation. The insulation helps to protect the wire from corrosion and physical damage. When installing the grounding wire, follow the manufacturer's instructions. The wire should be run in a straight line and should be protected from physical damage. Avoid kinking or bending the wire, as this can reduce its ampacity. Connect the grounding wire to the grounding electrodes and the equipment grounding terminals using approved grounding connectors. Tighten the connectors securely to ensure a good electrical connection. Inspect the grounding wire regularly to ensure that it is in good condition. Check for corrosion, loose connections, and physical damage. If you find any problems, repair them promptly to maintain the effectiveness of the grounding system. In addition to the grounding wire, it is also important to use the correct size equipment grounding conductors. Equipment grounding conductors are used to connect the metal enclosures of electrical equipment to the grounding system. This helps to ensure that the metal enclosures are at the same potential as the earth, which reduces the risk of electrical shock. The size of the equipment grounding conductors is determined by the size of the overcurrent protective devices that protect the electrical equipment. The NEC provides tables that specify the minimum size of equipment grounding conductors based on the size of the overcurrent protective devices. Using equipment grounding conductors that are too small can be dangerous. If a fault occurs, the equipment grounding conductors may not be able to carry the fault current, which could cause the metal enclosures of the electrical equipment to become energized. This could lead to an electrical shock hazard. Therefore, it is essential to use the correct size equipment grounding conductors to ensure that the electrical equipment is properly grounded. When selecting equipment grounding conductors, choose conductors that are listed and labeled for grounding purposes. The conductors should be made of copper or aluminum and should be insulated with a green or green with yellow stripe insulation. The insulation helps to protect the conductors from corrosion and physical damage. When installing the equipment grounding conductors, follow the manufacturer's instructions. The conductors should be run in a straight line and should be protected from physical damage. Avoid kinking or bending the conductors, as this can reduce their ampacity. Connect the equipment grounding conductors to the grounding electrodes and the equipment grounding terminals using approved grounding connectors. Tighten the connectors securely to ensure a good electrical connection. Inspect the equipment grounding conductors regularly to ensure that they are in good condition. Check for corrosion, loose connections, and physical damage. If you find any problems, repair them promptly to maintain the effectiveness of the grounding system. Ensuring proper neutral bar isolation is also vital. In electrical panels, the neutral bar serves as the termination point for neutral conductors, which carry the return current from electrical devices back to the source. In service entrance panels, the neutral bar is typically bonded to the grounding system, creating a common ground reference. However, in downstream panels, it's crucial to isolate the neutral bar from the panel enclosure to prevent unwanted circulating currents. These circulating currents can arise from various factors, including unbalanced loads and electromagnetic interference. When the neutral bar is bonded to the panel enclosure in downstream panels, these circulating currents can flow through the grounding system, leading to voltage drops and potential interference with sensitive electronic equipment. To isolate the neutral bar, use a non-metallic adapter or barrier. This adapter or barrier should be installed between the neutral bar and the panel enclosure, effectively preventing any electrical contact between the two. This isolation ensures that the neutral current returns directly to the source without flowing through the grounding system. When isolating the neutral bar, it's essential to maintain a separate equipment grounding conductor that connects the panel enclosure to the grounding system. This equipment grounding conductor provides a path for fault currents to flow back to the source, ensuring electrical safety in case of a fault condition. When working with 220-volt services, understanding the wiring requirements is critical. A 220-volt service typically involves two hot wires, a neutral wire, and a ground wire. The two hot wires carry the electrical current to the load, with each hot wire providing 110 volts. The neutral wire serves as the return path for the current, completing the circuit. The ground wire provides a safety path for fault currents, protecting against electrical shock hazards. In a 220-volt service, it's essential to ensure that all four wires are properly sized and connected according to electrical codes. The size of the wires should be adequate to handle the expected current load, and the connections should be secure and reliable. When connecting the wires to the electrical panel, follow the manufacturer's instructions and use appropriate connectors. It's also crucial to properly identify and label each wire to avoid confusion during future maintenance or repairs. Remember that working with electricity can be dangerous, and it's always best to consult with a qualified electrician if you have any doubts or concerns. By following established electrical codes and safety practices, you can ensure the safety and reliability of your electrical system.